Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whichever part of the world you are joining us from. Global Council for the Promotion of International Trade, powered by the Global Magazine, the Global Alliances, proudly welcome you all to this exclusive interview series in connection with World MSME Day 2022. In this series of interviews, we'll be looking at global perspectives of coordinated efforts to the post-pandemic economic recovery of MSMEs. I'm Aparna Kumar, the Global Co-Chairperson of GCPIT and your host for the show. Every year on June 27th, Micro, Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises Day or MSME Day is celebrated to honor their role in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. Small and medium-sized enterprises or SMEs account for up to 90% of businesses, 60 to 70% of employment, and they account for half of global GDP according to the United Nations. The Global Council for the Promotion of International Trade is an organization based in India, South Africa, US, UK, and UAE, with board and council member representation across the world. We have been celebrating World MSME Day since 2018, and this year we are celebrating this day with global perspectives from various leaders, departments, ministries, chambers of commerce, and international organizations. We believe that global perspectives have a significant role to play in paving the way for the future. Today we have with us Ms. Regina Hammond, who is a dedicated, adaptable, and people-centered international development professional with work experience spanning Ghana, Switzerland, and the United States. She's passionate about advancing socio-economic development through entrepreneurship with proven track record in contributing to development through coordination, direct implementation, strategy development, research, and successful collaboration with high-performing diverse teams. She consults for various organizations on trade and entrepreneurship matters. Welcome, Ms. Regina, to our show. Thanks for joining us today in this very important discussion on SMEs.
Thank you so much for having me, and happy World MSME Day. I'm glad to be part of today's agenda. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Regina. I know you have been into international trade and development consulting for the last 6 years, right? And you have been wearing multiple hats. You are a national consultant. You have been volunteering and supporting events like International Women Entrepreneurship Seminar. You are a social enterprise advisor. You are promoting a co-entrepreneurship with SAG-Seed starter and replicated projects, facilitated many events like workshop on sustainable tourism, digital innovation bootcamp, and now you are serving as a co-business advisor to SEED 2021 Low Carbon Award winner and the runner-up of SMEs, right?
Very much so, and I am glad to have the opportunity to serve MSMEs in different capacities. Thank you.
That's an amazing profile you have, very, very impressive. And before starting, can you please tell us how it all started and what have been your experience with MSMEs?
Sure, definitely. So like you rightly said, I have a passion for international development. Basically, I want to see people experience better standards of living. And through that, I realized that trade and entrepreneurship is equally a lever to get that going. It's a lever to create jobs. It's a lever to empower women. And so given my passion for international development, I found the avenue of trade to be my niche, and I look forward to using it to make the world a better place.
Amazing, amazing. And 3 years into the pandemic, we all know that the whole world is facing the challenges of COVID-19, and MSMEs are among like that they have been the hardest hit, right, during this crisis. And how do you think has been the recovery of MSME sector so far during and post COVID-19?
Thank you so much. So then I would want to highlight that I'm from Ghana. I'm talking to you from Accra right now. And even before I talk about recovery, I'll give a bit of context on MSMEs here in Accra, Ghana. So basically, MSMEs contribute to 70% of the nation's GDP. And you can just tell by that figure that they are a key vital lever when it comes to national development. And equally, they are very vital when it comes to job creation. So they are an important pillar in our society and in our economy. 2019 COVID hits, businesses were badly affected. We had decreased sales, disruption in value chains, production constraints, And since then, what we've seen is that thankfully there's been a general sense of opening. We're in a post-COVID climate right now. But what has recovery been? Things are definitely better than when COVID did hit in 2019. So that's something worth noting. But then the recovery has been gradual, slowly, gradual, progressive. Sales are better now than during COVID, during the heat of COVID, but then we can't say for sure that they are pre-COVID levels, right? So you have these dynamics. Interestingly, at least a positive dimension when it comes to recovery is that around digitalization. So pre-COVID, most MSMEs here in the country did not really have digital presence. They were not taking use of digital technologies. But then COVID-19 really caused MSMEs to accelerate their participation in the digital space. So then you have MSMEs, they did realize that they could not access markets, they could not access consumers. So they had to think of new ways of doing business. So post-COVID, you are seeing a greater uptake of e-commerce, stronger presence online. So in that sense, recovery has been positive in that we are seeing a greater appreciation when it comes to being in the digital space. And I would also want to highlight another dimension of recovery, that is to say, has not been uniform. And why do I say that? MSMEs are different, they have different characteristics. And depending on their own internal resilience, some were able to bounce back better than the others. I mean, they might not have the same financial capacity, human resource capacity. The capacities differ really. So some have been able to bounce back better than others. But generally, I guess I can definitely say that full recovery has not been realized. Recovery is happening, but it's not full, it's not total. There's still room for improvement. And I mean, right now we are in a volatile climate here in Ghana, and I think it applies to different parts of the world, different macroeconomic situations, obviously not linked to COVID, but then still has negative impacts on MSMEs. So we have inflation in the country, and these volatile situations affect MSMEs definitely. So yes, they are bouncing back, but we need to support MSMEs more. There's still room to support and help them bounce back better and build back better. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That is, yeah, I totally agree with you. And I would like to ask about the situation of women entrepreneurs as well. So I think they also have started having their digital presence. What is the situation?
Yes, definitely. So it is the case that they are equally trying to bounce back, right? Generally, it's not really a fair playing field when it comes to maybe access to finance, access to information, or even just being aware of current trends that can help them propel their businesses. But thankfully, there are projects in country that are intentional about supporting women entrepreneurs, be it from the government sector, from development partners. And these are providing tailored support to women entrepreneurs so that you're also seeing them take advantage of digital technologies, participate in fairs when they have the opportunity to, and basically really capacity to help them unlock the next level of their businesses. So, but then we again advocate for more support for women entrepreneurs because we know that investments in women reap benefits that are so vital to social economic development.
MSMEs are the largest employers in many low-income countries, and yet their growth is often stifled by the restricted access to credit, right? And access to financial services in the sector can boost job creation, raise income, reduce vulnerability, and increase investments in human capital. What, according to you, is the situation of MSME financing instruments in your country during and post-COVID?
Yeah, definitely. You really hit that nail on the head, and rightly so. In Ghana, MSMEs employ about 80%, provide about 80% of the jobs. But then there's a question of financing. So during COVID, there were efforts from the government in collaboration with other players, and they provided soft loans. So there was a soft loan scheme for MSMEs, and really what it encompassed was that there was a 1-year moratorium and a 2-year repayment period. So the whole point of that was to really provide financial relief for MSMEs. Equally, there were grants, grants to support MSMEs to unlock the next level. So grants were targeted really at COVID-19 recovery, some from the government, different development agencies. And then you had the traditional commercial and bank loans. Those were made available to MSMEs across different sectors. And some private sector players equally came together and they came up with a stimulus fund so that some MSMEs could access it. So there were intentional efforts really to provide financial cushion for MSMEs in the period, in the really hard time. Yeah.
Like policies, institutions and regulations that provide a conducive environment for small enterprises can make a substantial contribution to building a self-reliant economy. What are the key highlights of policies and strategies for building a self-reliant economy in your country as of now? And can this percolate down well into the micro enterprises, as majority of MSMEs are micro units? What changes do you suggest?
Right. So interestingly, here in Ghana, we had the MSME policy, MSME and entrepreneurship policy launched in 2021, right? So that was after COVID hit, but then it's also a very positive development to have a framework that is anchored in supporting MSMEs. So in that case, you could tell that there are thoughts, there are plans to really support MSMEs directly. So that's a policy that is really worth celebrating. And equally, we had the National Financial Inclusion and Development Strategy. So the whole idea is to promote financial inclusion in the country. So we were at the level of 58%, and the aim of the strategy is to really push us to 85% when it comes to financial inclusion in country. And it's interesting that you mentioned micro enterprises, because most of them are found in the informal sector. And to the extent that financial inclusion is able to spread through the country, then you're able to positively affect some of these micro units who are usually found in the MSME space. But then the financial inclusion strategy would help them to be able to access financial products. So in a sense, it would also close the gap. So that's another strategy worth noting. That's a National Financial Inclusion and Development Strategy. And I'll highlight a third and final strategy we have in country, and that's the National Export Development Strategy. Again, that was also launched in 2020, again, still around COVID time, really. But then the whole idea of that strategy also is to have like a competitive, export-led, industrialized economy in country. And then you ask yourselves, who are the people who would push this agenda? To a large extent, MSMEs would actually be drivers, because they are also exporters within, they are mainly exporters, or they are being trained to be able to have capacity to export. So with a policy like that, it provides a bold challenge to MSMEs, and to the extent that they are able to also, become more competitive, participate in international trade, then they can also do better for the prosperity of the country.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And how is the current scenario in terms of job creation in the MSME sector?
Job creation, that's a very key and necessary one, right? It's such an important issue, and this question is very much appropriate. I said MSMEs contribute 80% to jobs in country. But then also you can say that jobs, the extent of jobs created is linked to how well MSMEs are doing or are not doing. Because if you are thinking of job creation by MSMEs, if MSMEs are doing well, they can provide good jobs. If they are growing, they can provide good jobs. But if they are not doing so, then it becomes a bit challenging. So what I'll say is that it is linked to the recovery, the first question that you asked me earlier. I mean, it's fairly good, but there's room for improvement. And the good thing is that right now there are projects to the effects of wanting MSMEs to be able to develop jobs in country. So you have some development organizations coming in with targets such as, we want to develop 10,000 jobs through supporting MSMEs. So we have that project ongoing in country, and the aim is to achieve that by 2025. Equally, the government has initiated a project with the aim to establish 1 million jobs, again by 2025. So some way, somehow it happens that there are prospects for the future, but then we don't have the results yet. But then we are hopeful that would have very positive results. So hopefully you can ask me this in about 3 years, since most of them are aimed at 2025, and hopefully there should be some good news.
Great. I'll come back after 3 years and ask you the same thing. And it will take time. The recovery will take time, right? So you were mentioning about partnership. What do you think? What is the impact public-private partnerships have on economic growth, according to you?
Well, when you think of it in the first place, it's about bringing different parties together. So it's really excellent partnership for greater impact. Everyone comes with different core strengths, and you're able to leverage these strengths to be able to achieve great impact, right? And what I've also realized is that projects that have a public-private partnership component to a large extent are sustainable, and it also challenges the parties to come up with innovative models. So I'll give an example of an SME that I've been engaged with, but then the joint venture is as a result of public-private partnership. So in this example, you had the municipal assembly providing the land as a resource, and then the private sector partner came in to provide the technical knowledge, operational capacity and support, right? And what they are doing is that they are taking waste in the community. So it's a recycling plant, but then it's a PPP. They are taking waste in the community and transforming this waste into compost as well as briquettes. And why do I cite this example? Maybe the private sector would have wanted to come up with this initiative, but they might not have had the resource of the land easily available. Maybe the municipal assembly would have wanted to come up with this initiative, but they would not have the experience and the know-how right away. So here's a case where we join our knowledge, we join our experiences to achieve a common aim and objective. And the nice thing about this example is that at the end of the day, they're going to generate revenue from selling the compost and briquettes. They are creating jobs in the local ecosystem. They have a sustainable model that they are using to operate. A self-financing as a circular economic business model. But then this is as a result of putting brains together to achieve impact within the society. So hopefully we can have more to spare different levels of impact in the country. So it's definitely a step in the right direction, and it has great potential for impact.
I think you have shared a great example. And as you said, the leadership may not have the right expertise for doing things. But how do you think are the leaders promoting the PPPs?
Right. So again, there's a PPP policy in country, right? And once you have that institutional framework centered around it, you realize there's an intentional effort to get it done overall. So I think having a policy in itself is a right mark to show commitment towards PPPs and to do it and do it well. So that's something worth celebrating in that sense.
And have you thought of a strategy for creative economic development for micro, small, and medium enterprises? If so, can you share it with us?
That's a very interesting question, right? And I would want to equally share on the fact that, the creative industries, according to an UNCTAD report, makes mention of the fact that includes advertising, design, film, computer games, architecture, fashion, just many dynamic sectors that have the power to propel growth. And over here, we have talents and MSMEs centered around this industry, really. But then what you can see is that there's really more room for improvement. I mean, there have been times where there have been dialogue on intellectual property, a key component that is really needed in the creative economy, right? So there are dialogues going on, there are supports going on, there is support going on, but more can be done to really propel this economy, this sector that has massive growth potential, and which will translate and trickle down into great economic development for the country as well. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And before we end, would you like to add anything more?
Definitely.
mean,
Today is all about MSMEs, and we are celebrating MSMEs. We are having a global perspective on how things have gone. And my key message is that we should not stop supporting MSMEs. We should look to develop tailored support for them to help them unlock the next level in their enterprises and their businesses. That would really support national economic development. It would also trickle down to really affect the global, economy positively. There are just so many trickle down effects, and we should do our best to give MSMEs the support they need. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Regina, for your valuable input on the serious issue of MSMEs. As you said, the recovery is still happening. The situation is definitely better, getting better, though gradual. And most of the MSMEs didn't have a digital presence before, and now they are focusing on e-commerce and creating a digital presence. That was amazing. I hope this discussion is a small step towards creating a huge change, not just in your country, but globally. Thank you so much for joining us today. Wish you all the best in your future endeavors as well.
My pleasure, and thank you for having me here. Thank you.
Thank you. And as we all know, MSMEs are the backbone of any economy, and they are badly hit during this pandemic. Let us come together and help the SMEs recover. And as Regina said, let us keep supporting and come for them to come back to normal. If you're an expert on MSMEs and if you have an opinion to share, we would like to invite you to join us in this discussion. Please mail us at contact@gcpat.us. If you're an MSME and have any questions to ask or concerns to express, please comment under this video and we will take it up with the experts. We are on a mission 100 million. A mission to touch the lives of 100 million entrepreneurs. If you would like to join us and be part of this game-changing mission, you can contact us through mail, or you can find us on all social media as GCPIT Global. Let's together change the world brick by brick. Let us be the change we wish to see in this world, as Mahatma Gandhi said. See you all in our next session with another expert leader on SMEs. Till then, this is Aparna Kumar signing off. Bye-bye. Take care. Have a great day.